Good morning, Calvary Baptist Church, and for those who are watching this online. If you remember last week, we talked about God's attributes and how they are broken down into two main categories, which consist of communicable and incommunicable attributes. Communicable attributes are the ones that God shares with us to a limited extent, whereas incommunicable attributes are attributes that God does not share with us. Last week we talked about how God is completely independent, where we need God, but God does not need us. Well, today we are going to be talking about God's immutability. God's immutability, which is an incommunicable attribute. When it comes to God's being, perfections, promises, and purposes, God does not change. God feels emotion and can act differently in response to different situations. However, God does not change. We are living in a world that is constantly changing. Societies change, fashion and people change, technology changes, season changes, but God does not change. In Malachi 3 verse 6, we read these words, "For I, the Lord, do not change. Therefore you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed." Because God does not change, we can take God's word and his promises to the bank. This is why we can pass the Bible down from generation to generation, because God does not change. Hebrews 13 verse 8 says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. If God could change, we would not be able to take God's promises to the bank, because he could change his mind about his promises and decide not to keep them if God could change. God does not change, which is why we can trust him. We can have full confidence knowing what God said in his word that he will do. Psalm 119 verse 89 says, "Forever, O Lord, your word is firmly fixed in the heavens." And in closing, I just want to read out a few passages that talk about God's immutability. Listen to what it says in Psalm 102 verse 25 to 27. "Of old you laid the foundation of the earth, and the heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you will remain. They will all wear out like a garment. You will change them like a robe, and they will pass away. But you are the same, and your years have no end." The earth changes, but God himself does not change. James 1 verse 17 says, "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change, like shifting shadows." And the last one that I will read out is from Job 23 verse 13, which says, "But he is unchangeable, and who can turn him back? What he desires, that he does." So we looked at God's incommunicable attribute of immutability. When it comes to God's being, perfections, promises, and purposes, God does not change. May God bless each and every single one of you, and let us continue to exchange prayers daily.